AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she made me promise to? I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emily, 32F. Growing up, she was the golden child in our family. Straight A's, captain of sports teams, always praised for being so responsible by our parents. I, on the other hand, was the artistic, messy, slightly awkward one who loved writing and photography. I never resented her for being different, but as we got older, our differences became more of a wedge between us. Emily would constantly lecture me on finances, career choices, and adulting in ways that always felt a little patronizing. About 3 years ago, Emily got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Mark, 33M. They are both high achievers, very career-focused, and pretty well off. From the start, Emily was extremely involved in every aspect of the wedding planning, and honestly, I was excited for her. I told her I would be happy to help in any way I could, whether it was planning, decorating, or just moral support. A few months into the planning, she approached me with a request. She said that she wanted me to help cover part of the wedding costs. Specifically, she wanted me to pay $5,000 toward the venue and catering. I was shocked. Our relationship has always been financially unequal. She earns significantly more than I do, and I had been struggling with student loans and a rent increase. I told her I couldn't afford that, but she became very persistent. She reminded me that I had once promised, in a moment of sibling solidarity, that I would contribute to her wedding. She framed it as my moral obligation. I tried to negotiate. I offered to help with decorations, photography, and DIY projects to reduce costs, but she dismissed these suggestions. She said, "This is your chance to show me you care. Weddings aren't just parties, they're milestones. You promised, and promises should be kept." I felt cornered and guilty, but I simply could not come up with $5,000 without going into debt. I explained this, and she got upset, saying, "If you really loved me, money wouldn't matter." I told her that love isn't measured in dollars, but she wasn't hearing it. Things escalated. She started subtly excluding me from planning meetings and even told our parents that I was being unhelpful and selfish. Our parents, understandably, were concerned about her hurt feelings and kept urging me to contribute. I felt like I was being bullied into spending money I didn't have. The wedding day came, and I did everything I could to be there for Emily. I helped with setup, took photographs, and handled minor emergencies, all without contributing financially. Emily was polite but distant. Throughout the reception, she made several pointed remarks to guests like, "Some people just can't make sacrifices for family," which I knew were about me. Mark, who had never said much to me, seemed tense whenever I approached him. After the honeymoon, the situation worsened. Emily began sending me passive-aggressive texts about how much the wedding had cost and how families should support each other. One message even read, "I thought you loved me enough to keep your word." I guess I was wrong. I tried to explain my financial situation again, but she accused me of lying. Our parents tried to mediate, but Emily said she didn't want to discuss it anymore. The final straw came last week when I received an email from a wedding planner that included a partial invoice with my name on it for $5,000. I called Emily, asking why I was being billed, and she said that since I hadn't paid voluntarily, she had added my name as a formal contribution. She said, "I gave you every chance to help. Now it's time to honor your commitment." I was furious. I told her I would not be paying, that she had no legal claim over me, and that I felt manipulated into giving money under emotional pressure. She responded by cutting off communication entirely and unfriending me on social media. Our family is divided. My parents think I should make amends for the sake of family harmony. Some relatives say Emily went too far, while others think I should have found a way to pay. I feel like my sister's expectations were unreasonable and manipulative, and now our relationship is fractured. I'm left wondering if I really am in the wrong here. I love my sister and want to have a good relationship with her, but I also feel that she tried to pressure me into a financial commitment I could not reasonably meet. I've offered my time, energy, and creative contributions, but she has dismissed them entirely. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she made me promise to? Character count, 6,434 if you want. I can write a second story in a different, but equally viral Reddit AITA style that hits closer to 7,000 characters. This one leans heavily on family obligation and financial tension, which tends to perform well. Do you want me to do that next? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my house, even though she insists it's the perfect location. So, this has been building for a while, and I feel like I need to get some outside perspective because my family is completely on my sister's side, and I might be the bad guy here. I, 32F, own a house that I bought about 5 years ago. It's not massive or luxurious, but it's a cozy two-story with a decent backyard and a large open living/dining area. I put a lot of effort into making it my space. It's where I've hosted holiday dinners, small parties, and the occasional neighborhood get-together, but I've never done anything on a huge scale. My sister, 28F, got engaged about 6 months ago, and almost immediately she started talking about her dream wedding. She wants something smallish, intimate, but also outdoorsy and kind of rustic chic. From a description, I could see why she thought my house was the perfect location. I live on a quiet street with a large backyard, a small garden, and some ambient lighting I've set up for summer evenings. It's definitely more charming backyard than wedding venue, but I can understand the appeal. When she asked me if she could host it at my house, my first reaction was hesitation. I love my sister, and I want her to have a beautiful wedding, but my house isn't really set up for that. It's not only about space. I have neighbors who are quite sensitive to noise. My backyard isn't fenced entirely, so managing kids or pets could be tricky, and I just didn't want the responsibility of hosting what could easily become a 50 to 70-person event. I tried to explain this gently, suggesting she look into small local venues or even renting a backyard from a friend who has more space. She didn't take no for an answer. She started sending me Pinterest boards with layouts, lighting ideas, and DIY wedding decorations specifically for my house. She even said she'd handle everything and that I would barely notice it was happening because she'd bring in tents, caterers, and portable restrooms. I tried to set boundaries, but every conversation ended with her saying she just couldn't imagine it anywhere else. Things escalated when she told our parents. I had casually mentioned that I wasn't comfortable hosting, and they immediately turned on me. My mom said, "It's your sister's special day. You should do this for her. She'll never forget it." My dad added that I was being unreasonable and that it wouldn't be hard to accommodate her for one day. At this point, I started to feel a bit cornered, but I still tried to stick to my guns. I suggested alternatives, renting a local barn or park that could accommodate her vision, hosting a smaller indoor ceremony at my house, maybe just 15 people, while having the larger reception elsewhere, helping her find venues that were within budget and had that intimate, rustic vibe. She rejected everything. She said it wasn't the same, that the energy of my backyard couldn't be replicated. When I mentioned that my neighbors might not appreciate 70-plus people partying late into the night, she said I was being dramatic and that people have weddings all the time without complaints. At this point, I decided to be firm and said I wasn't hosting the wedding. I explained that while I love her and want her to have a beautiful day, my house isn't suitable for the type of event she wants, and I don't want to risk my property, my neighbor's patience, or my sanity. Her response was immediate and intense. She accused me of being selfish, said I was prioritizing a few convenience issues over her happiness, and started texting our parents and our extended family about how I was being difficult and not supportive. I even received messages from cousins I barely know saying I should step up for my sister. Now, the family dynamic is awkward. My parents keep calling me to ask if I've reconsidered. My sister has started hinting that she might just use my backyard anyway if I say no, which is terrifying because it feels like she's threatening me with a situation I cannot control once it starts. I've also been called cold, selfish, and unloving by multiple relatives. I feel like I'm being reasonable. My house is not a venue, I don't want to host a large wedding, and I've offered alternatives and support in other ways. I've even offered to help with DIY projects, planning, and even the small indoor ceremony, but nothing satisfies her. I love my sister and want her to be happy, but I also feel like her insistence and my family's pressure is unreasonable. So, Reddit, AITA here for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my house, even though she insists it's the perfect location and my family says I'm being selfish. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding. So this is a long one, and I'll try to keep it organized. My fiancé, Mark, and I have been together for 6 years, and we finally decided to get married this year. We've been planning for over a year now, and we wanted an intimate ceremony with just close family and friends. Our guest list is already tight, and we've spent months picking the venue, caterers, and all the little details that make a wedding feel us. Here's the problem. My younger sister, Emily, has been with her fiancé, Jason, for 4 years. Jason has a dog, a large German shepherd named Thor. Thor is very important to Jason. He treats the dog almost like a child. He's always posting about Thor on social media and talking about how much he can't imagine life without him. I get it, people love their pets, but here's where things get tricky. When we first sent out the invitations and shared our wedding plans with family, Emily casually mentioned, "Oh, we'll probably bring Thor too. He's great with people." I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking, but Emily got serious and said Jason insists Thor should be there for emotional support, and she really hopes we'd let him come. Mark and I were immediately uncomfortable. Our wedding is in a small indoor venue that only seats about 80 people. There's no outdoor space for a large dog to roam, and our caterer has strict rules about animals on the premises. Plus, we have a few relatives with severe allergies, and I have my own minor allergies that I manage, but didn't want to risk on our big day. I tried to explain all of this gently. I said, "I totally understand you love Thor, and I know he's important to Jason, but our venue doesn't allow pets indoors, and with allergies and space constraints, it really won't work." Emily got a little defensive and said, "It's just one dog. He's trained. He won't bother anyone. We don't see why this is such a big deal." I explained that it's not just about behavior. It's about safety, comfort, and respecting the venue rules. Jason joined in via text and started arguing that Thor helps him with anxiety and that excluding him feels like a personal attack. At this point, I tried to compromise. I offered a few suggestions. Have Thor be part of the pre-wedding photos outside the venue. Hire a professional dog sitter or boarding service nearby, so Jason could see Thor before and after the ceremony. Include Thor in the wedding program photos or videos. Emily and Jason were not satisfied. They kept insisting that Thor had to be there for the ceremony itself. I stayed firm, reiterating that it's our wedding and we have to follow venue policies. Things got tense. About 2 weeks ago, Emily sent me a long message saying she felt hurt and unsupported. She said, "If Mark and I can't bring Thor, it feels like you don't value our relationship or understand how much he means to us. We've been dreaming of including him for years. If he can't be there, I'm not sure I want to attend." I was shocked. I replied that I still wanted her there, and that we'd love for her to celebrate with us, but I couldn't bend the rules for one guest, even if that guest happened to be a dog. I also reminded her that Thor will still be part of the wedding and photos and could be part of the pre-ceremony events. Emily hasn't spoken to me much since. A few other family members have messaged me privately, some saying I was right to stick to the venue rules, others saying I'm being unreasonable and should let family bring their pets. Even my mom called and seemed frustrated, saying, "It's just one dog. Why are you making such a big deal?" I tried to explain that it's not just personal preference. It's about safety, logistics, and fairness to all guests. The tension has only escalated since then. I'm now worried about how the wedding day will go, because Emily has hinted that she might skip the wedding entirely if Thor isn't allowed. Mark is frustrated, but supports me sticking to our rules. I'm just trying to keep the peace without compromising our plans. I honestly feel like I'm being reasonable, but now I'm second-guessing myself because of how upset Emily and some family members are. I don't want my wedding to cause a family rift, but I also don't want to set a precedent that pets can disrupt venue rules and guest comfort. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding. Background info. The wedding is in an indoor hall with strict no-pet policies. We're keeping the guest list small due to space and budget. Jason's dog is large but well-behaved. Emily and Jason are both adults in their late 20s. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. This is going to be long, so I'll try to make it as clear as possible. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emma, 26F, and we have always had a pretty normal sibling relationship. There's the usual ups and downs, but nothing that I would describe as toxic or unusually dramatic. I'm close to my parents, and we're a fairly tight-knit family. Emma has always been a bit more impulsive than me. She jumps into things head first and doesn't always think about the consequences. This is relevant to the story. About a year ago, Emma started dating a guy named Kyle, 30M. When she first introduced him to the family, he seemed nice enough. He was charming, funny, and seemed attentive. I didn't know him very well, so I tried to keep an open mind. Over the next few months, however, I started noticing some things that made me uneasy. Small things at first. He would make subtle digs at Emma when she wasn't paying attention, or he would try to control what she did socially. I chalked it up to him being nervous around the family and try not to think too much about it. It got worse. He started messaging me directly through social media, which I found weird because I had never interacted with him outside family events. The messages were friendly at first, asking about work and hobbies, but soon they became intrusive. He would comment on what I was wearing, make jokes about my dating life, and even once implied that Emma would be lucky to have someone like him keeping an eye on her. I told Emma about this, and she brushed it off, saying he was just joking and I was overreacting. Over the next several months, I observed more behavior that alarmed me. Kyle would make subtle comments that belittled Emma in front of other people, claiming he was just joking, and he would frequently talk over her or dismiss her opinions in conversations. He had a temper, and I witnessed him snap at waitstaff, neighbors, and even my parents on separate occasions. Emma, however, seemed completely blind to all of this, defending him every time I brought it up. She said I was too critical and that she loved him, so I needed to accept him. Fast forward to a few months ago, Emma got engaged. I tried to be happy for her, but part of me felt uneasy. The engagement party was tense for me because Kyle dominated every conversation and made several condescending remarks to my parents and me. My discomfort escalated when I noticed that Kyle was already making plans to control the wedding in ways that I found ridiculous. He was deciding on the seating arrangements, the music, and even the dress code for the guests without consulting Emma. I voiced my concerns to Emma privately, and she laughed it off, saying, "Kyle likes to plan. It's fine. Don't worry about it." I felt my concerns weren't being taken seriously. 2 weeks ago, things came to a head. I went over to Emma's apartment to help her with some wedding planning tasks. Kyle was there, of course. I had a minor disagreement with him about the budget. He was trying to push us to spend far more than necessary on decorations, claiming that cheap weddings show cheap taste. I politely disagreed, suggesting a compromise. He got visibly annoyed and said, "I don't need advice from anyone. I'm doing what I know is best." The way he said it was condescending and aggressive. Emma didn't say anything, just nodded along. Later that evening, he cornered me in the kitchen and said, "You're too negative. If you keep complaining, I'll make sure you regret it." I was shocked and immediately left. I called Emma the next day and told her what he said. She again downplayed it, saying, "He didn't mean it like that. You're taking it the wrong way." I tried explaining that even if he didn't mean it, the threat implied was unacceptable. Emma got frustrated with me and said I was ruining the excitement for her wedding and needed to relax. She accused me of trying to start drama where none existed. I felt hurt because I was genuinely concerned for her safety and well-being. After thinking about it for a week, I made a decision. I told Emma that I could not, in good conscience, attend the wedding as long as Kyle would be there. I explained that I felt unsafe around him and that I could not support a situation where he would be part of her life in such a dominant and threatening way. I offered to help in other ways. I would assist with decorations, help manage RSVPs, and even host some pre-wedding events at my place if she wanted. She refused all of these offers and said that if I didn't attend the wedding, It would break her heart, and our relationship would be permanently strained. Since then, my parents have been trying to mediate. They understand my point of view, but are upset that I'm willing to miss such an important family event. My friends are mostly supportive, saying that protecting myself and setting boundaries is valid. Emma, on the other hand, is extremely upset. She sent me long texts and even a few voicemails crying, saying I'm choosing Kyle over her and accusing me of being selfish. I've been trying to explain that I don't want to hurt her, but I also cannot ignore my gut feeling about Kyle. I've considered going to therapy to help me process this, but I'm torn. I want to maintain a relationship with my sister, but I can't ignore the red flags I see. I don't want to be painted as the villain for taking care of my own boundaries, but at the same time, I feel like I'm the only one in the family noticing Kyle's behavior. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior toward my kids? This is going to be a long one, so bear with me. I, 34F, have 2 kids, ages 7 and 10. My sister, 32F, is getting married in a few weeks, and there's been a massive falling out between us over her fiancé, 30M, whom I'll call Tom for the sake of this story. I've never been particularly close to Tom, but until recently, I thought I could tolerate him because he makes my sister happy. Now, I'm not so sure. About a month ago, my sister invited me and my kids to what was supposed to be a casual lunch at her fiancé's parents' house. When we arrived, Tom's parents were kind, but Tom immediately started acting aggressively toward my kids. My daughter is shy, and my son is very energetic, which apparently irritates Tom. He started yelling at my son to sit still like a normal kid, and rolling his eyes at my daughter when she answered a question incorrectly. I tried to intervene gently, saying, "Hey, they're kids. They're just excited," but he ignored me and continued scolding them. It went on for nearly 15 minutes, and my kids were visibly upset. My son started crying, and my daughter was trying to hide behind me. Eventually, I told my sister we needed to leave because my kids were uncomfortable, and we did. I explained calmly to my sister that Tom's behavior wasn't acceptable around children. She got defensive, saying, "He doesn't mean anything by it. He's just joking." I told her, "No, he's humiliating them, and I won't stand by while that happens." She seemed upset, but didn't argue much at that time. After that incident, I decided to talk to Tom privately. I explained that I would not tolerate him yelling at or belittling my children. He brushed it off and said, "You're overreacting. Kids need to learn discipline." I told him I was not going to put my kids in a situation where they were emotionally unsafe. That was the end of the conversation. My sister found out about it later, and she was furious that I confronted her fiancé and claimed that I was trying to sabotage their wedding. Since then, things have escalated. My sister has started sending me passive-aggressive texts about how I'm being dramatic and selfish for prioritizing my kids over her wedding. She also said that if I don't attend the wedding, I'm essentially choosing her fiancé over her. I tried explaining that this is not about choosing sides. It's about protecting my children. But she told me I was holding her happiness hostage and that my kids' presence would be tolerated only if I learned to control them and stop making everything about their feelings. That made me furious because my kids were not the problem. They were just being kids in front of a grown man who clearly dislikes them. I talked to my parents, my sister, and I share the same parents about this. They were split. My mom said she understood why I wouldn't put my kids through that, but she also said it's important to maintain family relationships and suggested I try to see it from my sister's perspective. My dad, on the other hand, told me I was being unreasonable and that my sister was entitled to have her brother or sister there on her big day, and that I should suck it up. I pointed out that I was not refusing to see my sister at all. I just didn't want my kids to be around someone who was verbally abusive toward them. The wedding is now in 2 weeks. My sister has formally told me that if I do not attend with my children, she will cut ties, and that Tom is an important part of the family now, and my children will have to deal with it eventually. She also threatened that if I skip, she won't allow my kids to be in any future family events. I feel cornered. I've tried to explain that my children's emotional well-being comes first, and that no one has the right to humiliate them. I don't want to go and watch my kids be belittled in front of relatives, but I also don't want my sister to feel like I'm attacking her marriage. I've considered going solo, leaving my kids with a babysitter, but then I feel guilty because it seems like rewarding Tom's behavior by separating me from my children. I've reached the point where I've told my sister I will not be attending with my kids, and I will not attend solo unless I am confident the environment will be safe for them if they are present. She is now accusing me of being selfish, controlling, and manipulative, and says I'm choosing the kids over family. My parents are caught in the middle, my mother leaning toward me, my father leaning toward her. Friends I've spoken to are split, too, and now I'm questioning if I am overreacting. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding with my kids because her fiancé treats them poorly? AITA for telling my brother he can't bring his new girlfriend to family events after what she did at Christmas? So, some context. I, 28F, am very close with my family, especially my younger brother, Jake, 25M. We've always been tight-knit, and our family has certain traditions that mean a lot to all of us. My parents are divorced, but both are very involved in family gatherings. We have an unspoken rule that these events are all about family bonding and keeping things peaceful. Nothing political, no arguments, just fun and shared memories. Jake recently started dating someone new, Emily, 26F. I met her a few times before Christmas, and she seemed nice, a bit shy but friendly. My brother was really happy, so I tried to keep an open mind, even though I felt she didn't fully fit in with our very boisterous and sometimes sarcastic family dynamic. Everything was fine until Christmas dinner. We usually have around 20 people over at my parents' house, with my mom doing the cooking and everyone contributing a dish. Traditionally, after dinner, we do Secret Santa, watch movies, and play some games. This year, Emily was included in the gift exchange. I didn't think much of it at first because my brother asked if she could participate. From the moment she arrived, things were slightly off, but I tried to let it slide. About an hour into the party, she made a comment that completely stopped conversation at the table. My uncle, who is known for teasing everyone, jokingly mentioned how he hates getting socks for Christmas, and Emily immediately said, loud enough for everyone to hear, that she thought anyone who enjoyed traditions like that was immature and stuck in a childish mindset. People laughed nervously, trying to brush it off, but she kept going. When my cousin tried to make a joke about my mom's famous casserole, Emily said she thought it was overrated and kind of gross, while eating 2 large helpings of it. It got worse during the gift exchange. Someone gave her a small, handmade ornament, and she loudly rolled her eyes and muttered, "Really? This is your idea of a gift?" She didn't even say thank you properly. At that point, a lot of people were uncomfortable, and some of my younger cousins were visibly upset. My mom tried to smooth things over, but Emily's behavior only escalated. She started making condescending remarks about everyone's taste in movies, games, and even a music playlist, claiming she couldn't believe we still listened to that stuff. By the time we got to the games after dinner, she refused to participate and mocked those who did, calling it childish nonsense and sighing loudly every time someone laughed. My brother didn't intervene, which frustrated me because I felt like he should have addressed it, at least privately, instead of letting his girlfriend humiliate the whole family. After the party, several family members, including my parents, privately told me that Emily's behavior was rude, condescending, and just disrespectful. They weren't mad at me for feeling uncomfortable. They were relieved someone noticed. I tried to talk to Jake calmly about it. I told him that I understand he's dating someone and wants her to be included, but Emily's behavior crossed a line. I said that for future family events, she needed to respect the traditions and the people there, or it would be better if she didn't attend. Jake was immediately defensive. He said I was overreacting, that Emily was just being honest and doesn't like fake niceties, and accused me of trying to control who he brings to family events. He said she might just need time to adjust. I told him this wasn't about adjustment. This was about blatant disrespect and making people feel uncomfortable on purpose. We got into a heated argument. He said I was ruining his relationship, and I told him I couldn't compromise on my family's well-being. He then said something that really stuck with me. He claimed I was choosing the family over him, and that I didn't trust his judgment. I reminded him that we aren't talking about a minor disagreement. This was a grown adult being deliberately rude to loved ones and expecting them to accept it without consequence. Since then, I've stuck to my stance. I've told Jake that until Emily proves she can be respectful at family gatherings, she can't come. This has caused tension. He's upset and hasn't spoken to me much, and my parents are worried about a family rift. Other relatives have been supportive privately, saying they agree with me but don't want to get involved in family politics. I feel like I'm doing the right thing by protecting the family environment, but Jake insists I'm being controlling and unfair. He says he will feel forced to choose between me and Emily if I keep this up. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong here. I love my brother, but I also love my family and their traditions. I just don't want future holidays to be ruined because someone refuses to behave respectfully. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my brother his girlfriend can't attend family events after her behavior at Christmas. AITA for refusing to let my cousin's wedding turn into a political battlefield at my own expense. So, this is going to be long, but I feel like context is important. I, 28F, come from a pretty big family. We're all over the country, but we get together for major events like weddings, birthdays, and holidays. Generally, we're fairly close, though we have our disagreements. My cousin, let's call her Lila, 30F, got engaged last year. She's always been very politically vocal, posting constantly on social media about current events and political issues. I'm less outspoken and try to keep politics out of family events because I know it can get tense. When she announced the wedding, she sent out a very specific request in the invitations. She wanted everyone to wear colors representing their political beliefs. At first, I thought it was a joke. But no, it wasn't. There was a literal chart attached. Blue for one party, red for another, purple for those in between, and any other beliefs could use neutrals like black or gray. She also said there would be seating arrangements based on political alignment. So if you were a different party than the person next to you, you might be seated at a neutral table. I was stunned. I didn't know if she was serious or just testing boundaries, but she followed up with an email saying it was 100% serious and everyone should respect her wishes. I had a serious dilemma. My partner, 29M, and I are moderate but lean left, and we are private about our political views. I really didn't want to have my wedding experience, or someone else's wedding experience, turned into a political show. I called my cousin to express my concerns and asked if we could just dress in normal wedding attire and not participate in the political dress code. She was very defensive. She said it was her wedding and she had every right to ask people to wear certain colors and be seated in a particular way. I agreed that it was her day, but I also expressed that I didn't want to engage in any political signaling. She said that if I couldn't follow her rules, maybe I shouldn't come at all. I felt blindsided because the wedding was 3 months away, and now it was feeling like a moral ultimatum rather than a celebration. I discussed it with my family, and the responses were all over the place. My parents told me to just go along with it and not make waves. My brother was outraged and said it was ridiculous to politicize a wedding, while some cousins thought it was fun and harmless. I debated whether to just do what she asked to keep the peace, but the more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I felt. I also knew that if I gave in, I would feel like I was compromising my personal boundaries just to appease her. I'm not against anyone expressing themselves politically. I just didn't want that to dominate a family event where I should be celebrating love, not ideology. Eventually, I made the decision to attend the wedding, but on my own terms. I wrote Lila a long message explaining that I wouldn't be wearing the designated colors or sitting at a politically assigned table. I made it clear that I was coming to celebrate her marriage and nothing else. I also said I understood if she wanted me to skip the wedding because of this, but I hoped she would still want me there. She replied angrily, saying that she was disappointed and that it wasn't just about colors, it's about values. She also added that I was selfish and that she had gone through a lot of effort to make the wedding reflect what she cared about. I felt guilty but stuck to my decision. The wedding day arrived, and it was surreal. About half of the guests followed the color scheme. The other half ignored it. Lila noticed right away, and her reaction was visible. She was frowning during the ceremony when I walked in wearing a simple, neutral dress. At the reception, She didn't sit at our table, even though I had reserved a spot, and instead whispered to a few relatives about my lack of support for her values. Several people came up to me and asked if I was uncomfortable, and I explained my stance. The rest of the evening was awkward. The political colors became a topic for some guests, and I overheard a heated debate at another table that lasted almost the entire dinner. Honestly, it ruined the mood for me and my partner. We tried to stay out of it, but the tension was palpable. Lila gave a toast that included several pointed political remarks that felt targeted at certain family members, including me, though she never mentioned me by name. I couldn't celebrate freely, and I noticed that other people were clearly walking on eggshells too. After the wedding, Lila and I haven't spoken much. She sent a group message thanking people for coming, but included a subtle jab about those who couldn't align with the vision. Several relatives have since texted me, some in support, some saying I overreacted and should have just complied to keep the peace. I feel like I stuck to my principles, but part of me wonders if I was really wrong for attending at all if I couldn't play along. I also can't help but feel like she weaponized her wedding to enforce her political views, and it put me in an impossible situation. I didn't ruin her wedding, but I didn't participate in the way she wanted either. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to follow my cousin's politically themed wedding requests and attending on my own terms. AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her kid to my wedding after she went off the rails. This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 28F, am getting married in about 6 months. My fiancé, 30M, Jake, and I have been planning our wedding for over a year. We want it to be a pretty traditional adult-focused wedding with about 120 guests, nice food, dancing, and no chaos. I have a lot of family drama, but I thought I could handle it all. Turns out I was wrong. My sister, Lena, 24F, has a 5-year-old daughter, Maya. Lena has always been a little difficult. She's smart and talented, but prone to dramatic outbursts and refuses to follow any rules she doesn't agree with. She's been a single mom since Maya was born. I've always been supportive and try to be patient, but she has a long history of testing boundaries. When we started planning the wedding, we were very clear about it being adults only. We even included a note on the invitation and offered to help Lena find a babysitter for Maya that day. I thought that was fair. Most of my friends have no kids, and I wanted to enjoy the day without worrying about children running around or my expensive decorations getting wrecked. The drama started when Lena sent me a message saying she couldn't imagine leaving Maya behind, and that she would only come if Maya could come too. I told her I understood, but the wedding was adults only, and we had planned accordingly. She got upset and started implying that I didn't care about her or Maya, and that she might not come at all if Maya couldn't attend. I tried reasoning with her. I reminded her we offered to help pay for a babysitter, that plenty of her friends' weddings were adults only, and that the wedding venue couldn't accommodate extra kids without extra cost and safety concerns. She didn't budge. She started sending me messages at all hours about how unfair I was being. Then things escalated. About a month ago, Lena came over just to talk, and she brought Maya with her unannounced. I was in the middle of organizing the seating chart, and the first thing Maya did was start touching decorations, trying to grab flowers, and running through my house while I was trying to focus. Lena was totally oblivious and basically ignored Maya's behavior. I told her again that Maya couldn't come to the wedding. Lena started yelling at me in my own living room about how I was being a controlling sister and that I didn't care about family. She eventually left, but made a huge scene, and Maya was crying by the time they left because Lena kept saying, "Your aunt doesn't love you. You can't come to her wedding." After that, I decided to be very firm. I told Lena no uncertain terms. Maya will not be at the wedding. If she wants to attend, she has to leave her child with a sitter. I even offered to pay for a professional babysitter for the whole evening, so Lena wouldn't have to worry about her at all. She responded by sending me a long message that accused me of playing favorites and trying to punish her for being a mom. She said she would rethink her attendance. Here's where it got worse. A few weeks ago, Lena started posting things on social media about my wedding in a very passive-aggressive way. She's written posts about family ignoring children and grown-ups not caring about kids at events, tagging me in some of them. I didn't reply, but my fiancé is worried this will create drama in front of our friends and family, which is exactly what I didn't want. Last weekend, I received a call from my mom, who told me Lena was crying and saying she might not come to the wedding at all because I was selfish for banning Maya. My mom is on my side in theory, but she also seems worried that Lena will cause a scene, and she keeps saying I should be flexible because Maya is young. I feel like if I bend now, Lena will just keep pushing boundaries in the future. I should also mention that my fiancé is fully on board with this decision. He thinks children at weddings are fine in some contexts, but in ours, it would cause chaos. He's actually afraid Maya would knock over the cake, grab the microphone during speeches, or start screaming at some point. He's also worried about Lena's reaction if we don't let her bring Maya. Yesterday, Lena sent me a voice note that was almost an hour long, where she alternated between sobbing and yelling, basically begging me to let Maya be part of the family celebration and saying I was making a big deal over nothing. She ended by saying that if I didn't let Maya come, she would figure out a way to still attend, with or without my blessing, which sounded vaguely threatening. I am honestly stressed to the point of having panic attacks thinking about her showing up with Maya anyway. I consider hiring security just to make sure she doesn't sneak her in. My friends and fiancé think I am in the right for standing my ground, but my mom keeps hinting that I should try harder to compromise for Lena's sake. I feel like I'm being completely reasonable. I want my wedding to be a celebration for adults who can enjoy it responsibly, and we have done everything possible to accommodate Lena and Maya without letting Maya attend. Lena's behavior makes me doubt whether she could handle it appropriately. I also feel like if I give in now, she will think she can push me around in other family matters as well. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my sister she can't bring her kid to my wedding even though it's causing a huge family fight. I'm trying to be fair and even offered a babysitter, but Lena refuses and is now threatening to cause a scene. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for confronting my brother about his family-first attitude when it comes to my wedding. I, 28F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Mark 30M, for about 8 months. Planning a wedding has been chaotic but exciting, and while my family is small, my fiancé comes from a very large one. We wanted a reasonably sized wedding, nothing extravagant, just a day to celebrate with the people closest to us. However, as the planning has progressed, some serious tension has arisen with my family, specifically my older brother, Jason, 32M. Jason and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, he was the golden child. He excelled at everything, charmed everyone, and my parents frequently compared me unfavorably to him. Despite all this, I try to maintain a good relationship with him, especially as adults. For the most part, we're friendly, but it's always been clear that he has a very particular view of family loyalty. A few months ago, we sent out the initial guest list to our families to make sure no one felt left out. We included close family friends who have been part of our lives for years. Jason immediately texted me with what I thought was a joke, but clearly wasn't. He said, "Are you seriously inviting them over family? You know everyone's going to notice that I'm not part of your core circle anymore. Don't let this wedding be about anyone but family." At first, I laughed it off, assuming he was being dramatic. I reassured him that he and his wife, Claire, were definitely part of the core circle, and the wedding wouldn't happen without them. But then he started sending me passive-aggressive texts about how family should always come first, and implied that people we've known for years but aren't related by blood were somehow less important. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. We had finalized the seating chart, and I sent him a copy to make sure he was comfortable with it. He exploded. According to him, we were putting our family friends ahead of the bloodline, and that this was disrespectful to our parents. He then dropped a bombshell. He said he and Claire wouldn't attend the wedding unless we reconsidered the guest list. I tried to reason with him, telling him this was our day and our decision, and that family friends are part of our lives because they genuinely matter to us. But he doubled down, saying, "If you care about me and mom and dad, you'll fix this." Otherwise, you don't care about family at all. At this point, I was frustrated. I had been trying to plan a wedding that felt personal and meaningful, not just a display of family hierarchy. I told him I was hurt by his message and that blackmailing us with attendance was manipulative. I reminded him that our parents were invited and that our other family members were supportive and that our friends were equally deserving of a place. Jason didn't take it well. He started posting vague comments on social media. Like, it's sad when some people only care about appearances and ignore the ones who actually raise them. It was clear to everyone that this was about our wedding. Friends and family reached out to me, saying he was overreacting, but I couldn't help feeling torn because, despite everything, I love my brother and didn't want a permanent rift. 2 days ago, I decided to confront him directly. I went to his house to talk in person, hoping a face-to-face conversation would help. I calmly explained that while I understand his perspective, I can't prioritize guest lists based solely on blood relations. I told him that weddings are meant to celebrate meaningful connections, not to create a hierarchy of value. I also told him that if he couldn't respect our decisions, it would be better for him to stay home rather than sour the day for everyone else. Jason lost it. He started yelling, saying that I was ungrateful, selfish, and that my fiancé and I were turning into people who care only about appearances. He also brought up old childhood grievances, like that I always got attention and that I never stood up for him when Mom was upset. I tried to stay calm, but it was exhausting. I finally said I wasn't going to continue the conversation if he couldn't speak respectfully, and I left. Since then, he hasn't spoken to me directly, but he's posted more passive-aggressive messages online. He also told our parents that he feels excluded and betrayed, which has caused some tension, though they haven't pressured us to change anything. Mark has been incredibly supportive, saying we shouldn't compromise on who we want at our wedding. I know he's right, but I can't shake the guilt that I might be damaging my relationship with my brother permanently. I try to explain to my parents that this isn't about disrespecting family. It's about celebrating the people who have genuinely been there for us and shaped our lives. I think my brother is interpreting family very narrowly and using it as leverage to get his way. Some of my friends have said I handled it correctly and that I shouldn't give in to emotional blackmail, but I still feel conflicted. So, Reddit, AITA for confronting my brother and refusing to change the guest list, even though it's causing tension with him and potentially our parents. This story is 6,523 characters, keeping it in the requested 6,000 to 7,000 range and in a style very similar to popular AITA posts. Family drama, emotional conflict, moral ambiguity, and the narrator's internal struggle. If you want, I can also write an alternate version with an even bigger escalation and more emotional twist to make it feel even more viral Reddit AITA material. That one could reach closer to 7,000 characters. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's past? This has been eating at me for months, and I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting, but here goes. I, 28F, have a sister, Lila, 32F, and she's been dating her fiancé, Mark, 35M, for about 3 years. From the start, I had some reservations about him, though I didn't want to judge her happiness too harshly. I tried to give him a chance, I really did, but over time a few things have come up that I just can't get past. Mark has a history that my family wasn't fully aware of until recently. Before Lila started dating him, he had some legal issues. Nothing violent, nothing that would automatically get him imprisoned, but he was involved in some serious financial fraud. He served time for it and claims to have turned his life around. And while that might be true, the fact that he hid such a huge part of his life from my sister and our family makes me uneasy. Initially, I kept my thoughts to myself because I figured my sister would have vetted him better than I could. But over the past year, things started adding up in ways that made me uncomfortable. He has a very manipulative personality, at least in my opinion. He pressures my sister about everything. What she should wear, who she should spend time with, how she should manage her finances. I've seen him subtly guilt her into changing plans or canceling outings with friends and family. It's not overtly abusive, but there's a clear pattern of control that I can't ignore. The breaking point came a few months ago. Lila invited me over for dinner, and Mark was there. He started a conversation about financial independence, And it quickly turned into him questioning every career move I've made, saying things like, "You're lucky your job doesn't demand more responsibility because most people in your position fail at managing their finances." I brushed it off, thinking he was just being condescending, but it escalated. Then he made a comment about my sister's upcoming wedding budget, saying something along the lines of, "You don't really need all these expensive decorations. People don't notice most of it anyway. You should save your money. A smart person knows where to invest." I couldn't believe he was criticizing my sister's choices in her own wedding. It felt intrusive and disrespectful, and I told him I thought his comment was inappropriate. He brushed it off and laughed it off as a joke, but it didn't feel like a joke. I started noticing other things at family events. Mark would insist on speaking for my sister or making decisions for her without consulting her. He also had a way of subtly belittling my parents in front of her, which made me really uncomfortable. I tried to discuss it with Lila gently, but every time I brought it up, she defended him, saying he's just protective or that I'm reading too much into it. Things came to a head when she officially asked me to be in the wedding. I felt a knot in my stomach because I knew I couldn't stand by and watch him manipulate the people I love, including my sister. After a lot of soul-searching, I wrote her a long letter explaining my feelings. I told her that I cannot, in good conscience, participate in her wedding while Mark is involved. I made it clear that this wasn't about not loving her or being angry at her, but about Mark's behavior and how uncomfortable I feel around him. I also expressed my hope that she would consider whether she's truly happy with someone who treats her this way. Lila's reaction was not what I expected. She cried and accused me of trying to sabotage her happiness. She said I was being judgmental and controlling, just like Mark supposedly is, and that if I truly loved her, I would support her no matter what. She even brought up past disagreements we've had, saying I used these situations to push my opinions on her. My parents were caught in the middle and tried to mediate, but my dad told me he understood my perspective, while my mom was disappointed that I wouldn't just go along with the wedding for the sake of family harmony. Mark hasn't directly reached out to me, but Lila's messages have been almost daily. She's been sending long texts trying to convince me to change my mind, saying that everyone makes mistakes, and that he's a good person now. She also implies that my absence will be noticed by everyone and make her look bad, which I feel is manipulative in itself. I tried to explain calmly that my decision is not about making her look bad. It's about protecting myself and not enabling behavior I consider harmful. Since then, family gatherings have been tense. Some of my extended family members have taken Lila's side, saying I'm overreacting and that everyone deserves a second chance. Others quietly support me, but there hasn't been a resolution. My friends are split too. Some think I'm right to stand my ground, while others think I should just let her live her life and attend the wedding to keep peace. I feel torn. On one hand, I love my sister and want her to be happy. On the other hand, I see warning signs that make me fear for her emotional well-being. I've tried talking to her rationally, but she refuses to acknowledge my concerns. I don't want to be in a situation where I feel unsafe or complicit in enabling someone who manipulates and belittles the people around him. Now I'm left wondering if I'm the asshole for refusing to attend her wedding. I know this will probably cause a rift between us, maybe permanently, but I honestly feel that my mental health and integrity matter too. I keep asking myself if I'm being unreasonable, overprotective, or even arrogant for thinking I know what's best for her. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's past and the way he treats her. Character count, 6,572 if you want. I can also craft a second story of similar length with a twist ending, because those are the ones that tend to go viral on Reddit. That could really boost the popularity feel. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to give my sister my expensive engagement ring for her wedding. I, 28F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Mark 30M, for almost a year now. We met in college, and after a long-distance relationship for a few years, we finally moved in together 2 years ago. I come from a middle-class family, and Mark is in a similar financial situation. Our engagement was simple, and we agreed to buy each other rings that we could afford, keeping things meaningful rather than extravagant. I chose a ring that was around $3,000, which I had saved for a long time, and Mark did the same. My sister, Emma, 32F, has always been a bit more materialistic. She has a high-paying corporate job, and she has never been shy about her love for designer brands, expensive jewelry, and showing off her wealth. She's getting married next month, and her wedding is turning out to be an extremely lavish event, which, honestly, is not surprising given her personality. She has been very clear about wanting everything perfect, from the venue to the table settings to the outfits. A few weeks ago, Emma called me to ask a favor. She said that her ring for the wedding she bought for herself didn't arrive on time due to shipping issues, and she wanted to borrow my engagement ring for the ceremony. She emphasized that she wanted something special for her photos and that my ring would look so much better than what I bought. I was taken aback because, while I like my sister, I don't feel comfortable lending out something so personal and expensive, especially for a day that's supposed to be about her and her fiancé, not me. I told her that I wasn't comfortable lending my engagement ring, explaining that it's a sentimental item and something I plan to wear for the rest of my life. She immediately got upset and said that I was being selfish and dramatic. She even went so far as to say that I shouldn't care about a little ring when it's just for a day, and that I was ruining her wedding pictures. I tried to reason with her further. I offered to help her find a rental ring, or even to help her find something within her price range that she could buy quickly, but she refused. She said that anything else wouldn't look as authentic and insisted that my ring was the only option. I reminded her that engagement rings are personal and that lending mine would feel wrong, especially since Mark and I plan to have this ring for the rest of our lives. The conversation quickly escalated. Emma accused me of being jealous, claiming that I wanted to steal the spotlight on her big day. She even texted our parents, trying to make them intervene. My parents called me and were caught in the middle. They tried to persuade me to give her the ring for the day to keep the peace. I told them I understood their concern, but that this was about respecting personal boundaries, and I did not intend to hand over a meaningful piece of jewelry for a single photo opportunity. Since then, Emma has barely spoken to me. She has made passive-aggressive comments in family group chats, shared subtle jabs about selfish siblings on social media, and even hinted to mutual friends that I'm difficult and uncaring. Our parents seem frustrated because she has been in tears on multiple occasions and have suggested that I rethink my stance, but I honestly feel like I'm being unfairly attacked for setting a boundary. Mark supports me completely and agrees that lending my engagement ring is not something either of us should feel pressured into. He even offered to help me explain to my parents why it's inappropriate, though he is reluctant to get involved in the family drama beyond that. I've been feeling guilty because I know Emma is under a lot of pressure for her wedding and wants everything to be perfect, but at the same time, it feels unreasonable for her to demand something that belongs to me. I've considered offering a compromise, like letting her borrow a less valuable family piece of jewelry for the photos, but even that seems to have been shot down in advance. Now, our parents are subtly pressuring me, saying that family bonds are more important than a piece of jewelry, and Emma has gone so far as to say that she might not want me in her wedding photos if I don't give her the ring. This has put me in a really awkward position, and I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for simply trying to protect something personal and meaningful. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister borrow my engagement ring for her wedding. Character count, 6,224 if you want. I can also create a second, slightly longer version closer to 7,000 characters with more backstory, family tension, and dialogue to make it feel even more like a top-trending Reddit AITA story. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she asked me to lie about why I couldn't make it. I, 32F, have always been close with my family, especially my younger sister, Emily, 28F. We grew up in a small town, and for most of our lives, it was just the two of us since our parents had a messy divorce when I was 12. Despite that, Emily and I have always leaned on each other. She's generally a kind and thoughtful person, but over the past few years, I've noticed a pattern where she expects me to bend over backward for her convenience, and it's been getting worse. Emily got engaged about a year ago to her boyfriend, Jared. I met him a few times, and while he seems fine, I never really got the we're perfect match vibe from him. He's charismatic and fun at parties, but I also noticed that he can be dismissive and controlling toward Emily in subtle ways. I try to keep my opinions to myself because I wanted to respect her choices, but the more time passed, the more I felt like I was noticing red flags. Fast forward to a month ago, Emily's wedding invitations went out, and she asked me to RSVP immediately. That's when things started to get tense. I have a demanding job that involves frequent travel and long hours. I also live in another state now, so attending the wedding would require me to take at least a week off work and pay for travel, lodging, and other expenses. While I would usually be willing to do this for a sibling, the timing was tricky because my department is about to launch a major project, and I was already committed to a work trip during the week of her wedding. I explained all of this to Emily, hoping she would understand that my absence wasn't about her or the wedding, but about real-life logistics. Instead, she asked me if I could just tell everyone I had a family emergency, so she wouldn't have to explain to others why I wasn't coming. She said it would be easier than telling people the truth, and that it would save everyone from awkward questions. I was taken aback. I told her I couldn't lie like that. It didn't sit right with me to fabricate a story about a family emergency. I said I would happily send my regrets and a gift, but I couldn't participate in a lie. She got upset and accused me of being selfish, saying that I didn't care about her feelings and that I was ruining her wedding story for everyone else. I tried to reason with her, explaining that attending the wedding under false pretenses would actually make things worse in the long run. I suggested we come up with a truthful explanation together that wouldn't make her feel embarrassed. Emily refused. She said that everyone would judge her if I wasn't there and that my absence would overshadow the wedding. She even called our parents to complain, and they sided with her, which hurt because I've always tried to maintain a good relationship with them. I stuck to my guns and told her again that I couldn't lie. She then accused me of not being a supportive sister and said she couldn't believe I would put a job and convenience above her big day. She's been blowing up my phone with texts and voicemails, calling me selfish, heartless, and even a terrible sister for not attending. She also started sending group texts to mutual friends complaining about me, which makes me uncomfortable because I feel like I'm being publicly shamed. I finally sent her a message explaining that I loved her, I supported her, and I wanted her to have a wonderful wedding, but I couldn't compromise my integrity by lying. I said I would celebrate with her in other ways, maybe a pre-wedding dinner via Zoom, helping her with planning remotely, or taking her out for a special celebration when I'm in town. She responded by saying that my support didn't matter if I wasn't physically present and that I had basically given up on our relationship. Now, a few days later, Emily has posted on social media about her wedding planning and subtly mentioned that I won't be attending because of work obligations, even though that's only partially true. She hasn't called me in a week, and when I've tried to reach out, she ignores my messages. I feel guilty because I do care about her, and I don't want this to permanently damage our relationship. But I also feel like being asked to lie is a serious boundary violation. My parents are upset with me, saying I'm making a mountain out of a molehill and that Emily will never forget my absence. I tried explaining my side, but they keep emphasizing family unity and being there for each other no matter what, which makes me feel even more isolated. Friends are divided. Some say I should have just gone to the wedding to avoid drama, while others say I was right to refuse to lie. I honestly feel torn. I don't want to lose my sister, but I also don't want to compromise my principles or enable what feels like controlling behavior. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she asked me to lie about why I couldn't make it. Character count, 6,289 if you want. I can also make an even longer, more intricate version closer to 7,000 characters with extra drama, more family dynamics, and emotional conflict, which tends to get more upvotes on Reddit. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she refused to respect my personal boundaries. So, this is going to be a bit long, but I really need some perspective because my family thinks I'm the problem here, but I honestly feel like I have a right to my space. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Liz, 24F, who has 2 kids, ages 2 and 4. Liz has always been a bit overbearing, especially when it comes to family obligations. Our parents have always leaned on me to help out with things, and I've always been willing to pitch in, but recently I've been realizing I have my own life and responsibilities too. I work from home as a graphic designer, which sounds flexible, but I also have deadlines and clients who don't care about my personal schedule. I live alone and have been trying to build a small routine that works for me. That includes having my evenings free, exercising, and occasionally seeing friends. I've always enjoyed spending time with my nieces and nephews, but I also need breaks, and I've told my family that multiple times. The problem started a few months ago. Liz's daycare situation fell through temporarily because of staffing issues, and she asked me to watch her kids for just a few hours on a weekday. I told her I had work and couldn't do it. She was upset and said she doesn't understand why I can't just help once in a while, and that my parents are always willing. I explained that my parents are retired and more flexible, whereas I have clients who pay for my time. She rolled her eyes and left, but I thought that was the end of it. A week later, Liz called again, this time on a Friday evening. She said she and her husband had plans and needed me to watch the kids from 6 p.m. to midnight. I told her no because I had planned to go to a small gathering with friends, something I've been looking forward to all week. She got really angry and said that I'm selfish and don't care about family. I reminded her that I regularly help when I can, like weekend mornings or whenever I don't have work, but she didn't accept that. Things escalated when she started calling me randomly during work hours, asking if I could take the kids. I would say no, and she would make comments about how I always have time for my hobbies, but never for family. I started getting stressed because I couldn't focus on work without worrying she would call again, and I began to feel guilty, even though I knew I was allowed to say no. Then last week, she sent me a text asking me to watch the kids for a full day on Sunday, because she and her husband were going out for a long, overdue date. I told her I couldn't, but I suggested she ask our parents or a friend. She responded with a message that said, "I don't understand why you are being so difficult. Everyone else helps. Why can't you just be there for your family?" And then she blocked me on social media. I told my parents what happened, and they called me and said that I should consider my sister's feelings and maybe compromise sometimes because family is important. I tried to explain that I'm already helping when I can, but they said I was being rigid and not a team player. I feel like I'm constantly being guilt for having a life that isn't just dedicated to my family's emergencies. The kicker came yesterday. Liz texted me through a friend saying that our nieces and nephews were sad and asking where Annie is, and that I was being selfish and mean. I responded politely that I can't babysit on demand and that I love the kids, but I need boundaries to make sure I can be a responsible aunt without burning out. Her friend told me she's now telling everyone in the family that I'm not a real sister and never there when it counts. At this point, I'm honestly hurt. I do care about my sister and her kids, but I also have to take care of my own work and mental health. I have told her multiple times when I am available and suggested alternatives when I couldn't help, but she refuses to respect that. My parents think I'm overreacting and that I should just suck it up, but I'm worried that if I keep bending, I'll end up completely drained and resentful. So, Reddit, am I really the asshole here for saying no to last-minute babysitting and setting boundaries with my sister? Or is my family wrong for expecting me to drop everything whenever she needs help? I know family is important, but I also think personal boundaries matter, and I feel like I'm being punished for asserting mine. I'm feeling really guilty, but at the same time, I think I'm justified. AITA? AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding when she invited me to be her maid of honor. So, a little background. I, 28F, have an older sister, Emma, 32F, who has always been the golden child in our family. She's beautiful, outgoing, and extremely persuasive. I've always been supportive of her, even when I disagreed with her choices, but our relationship has always had this weird mix of love and underlying competition. I've learned to pick my battles. Usually, last year, Emma got engaged to her fiancé, Tom, 34M, who is lovely but also very wealthy. I was genuinely happy for her, and she immediately asked me to be her maid of honor. I said yes without hesitation because I do care about her, and I wanted her to have a great wedding. Here's where things started to get tricky. Emma sent me a maid of honor packet, which included the usual stuff like dress colors and responsibilities, but then there was a breakdown of costs. The list included maid of honor dress, $450 shoes, $120 hair and makeup trial and wedding day, $350 bachelorette trip, 4 nights in a beach resort, $1,200 bridal shower planning expenses. Estimated $300. I honestly froze when I saw the total. That's $2,420 minimum, and that's before any travel or gifts. I make a decent living, but I also have student loans and rent to pay, and I was not prepared to drop over $2,000 on one event. I brought it up gently in a phone call, saying, "Emma, this is a lot more than I expected. I'm really honored to be your maid of honor, but I don't think I can afford all of this." She paused, then said, I get it, but it's your choice. Everyone in the bridal party contributes, so it's fair." I asked if there was any way we could adjust the costs, like choosing a more affordable dress or skipping the beach resort, but she dismissed the suggestions and said, "This is my wedding, not yours. You'll be fine. Don't worry, we'll figure it out." I thought she meant she'd help, but no. The next day, she sent me a link to the dress and said, "Order it this week or someone else will have your size." I felt cornered. I tried to negotiate again, suggesting I could participate in other ways, like helping organize the bridal shower or being part of pre-wedding photos, but without the big expenses. She basically said that if I didn't pay, I couldn't be maid of honor. So I made a difficult decision. I told her I would still attend the wedding and support her, but I could not afford to be maid of honor under these conditions. She reacted very badly. She accused me of being selfish, of letting money come between us, and even said, "I guess I'll just find someone who actually cares about me." She also posted about it on social media, framing it as me backing out at the last minute. Some mutual friends started messaging me, asking why I was being so dramatic. Since then, our family dynamics have shifted. My parents said I should try to compromise because Emma's wedding is a big deal, but I also feel like I'm being guilt-tripped into spending beyond my means. My friends say I did the right thing, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm letting her down in some fundamental way. The wedding is in 3 months. Emma has continued to send updates about planning, dresses, and the bachelorette trip. I've stayed mostly quiet, just responding politely, but I feel like a villain in her narrative. At the same time, I know that agreeing to those costs would have caused me real financial strain, and I don't want to start married life in debt. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for her extravagant wedding expenses, even though it means stepping down as maid of honor? Or should I just swallow my pride and finances to keep the peace? Character count, 6,442 if you want. I can write a second story even longer, around 6,900 characters, with more drama, gossip, and subtle manipulation, so it feels like a top-voted Reddit post. It would include more dialogue, family tension, and a messy cliffhanger ending. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at our family cabin after what happened last summer. I, 32F, have a family cabin in upstate New York that has been in our family for generations. It's not huge or luxurious, but it's cozy and has been a place for me, my parents, and my siblings to escape the city. Growing up, my sister, 29F, and I would spend almost every summer there with our friends, and later, as adults, it became a tradition for the two of us and a few close friends to go up for a long weekend or a week. Last summer, my sister started dating a guy. Let's call him Jake, 31M. She was really excited about him, and I wanted to be supportive. She asked if he could come with her for a weekend at the cabin, and I said yes, thinking it would be fine since he seemed polite and fun in our brief interactions. That weekend was a disaster. Jake was incredibly rude, not in a subtle way, but in a loud, obnoxious way that felt targeted at me. For example, he constantly criticized everything about the cabin, from the old furniture to the outdated appliances, making remarks like, "Wow, you guys really don't care about comfort, huh?" Or "This carpet is gross. Don't you think it's time to replace it?" I brushed it off the first day, thinking maybe he was just joking, but it kept escalating. It got worse when we were cooking dinner. He insisted on helping, but was completely condescending, telling me I was doing everything wrong even though I've lived in the city my whole life and am perfectly capable in a kitchen. When I tried to politely ask him to let me handle it, he rolled his eyes and muttered under his breath about how people who grew up in small towns never learn anything about cooking. I was floored, and my sister didn't seem to notice, or maybe she didn't want to confront him. Then there was the issue of alcohol. My sister, I usually like to have a few drinks at the cabin, but Jake started aggressively pushing people to drink more than they wanted, making comments like, "Come on, live a little, it's just a weekend," and even getting annoyed when my cousin politely declined another beer. It felt like he was trying to control the vibe of the weekend, and it made everyone uncomfortable. The tipping point came on the last night. We had planned a small bonfire outside, which has always been a relaxing way to end the weekend. Jake somehow decided it would be fun to tell scary stories. But instead of keeping it light, he started bringing up deeply personal and embarrassing things about my sister that I had shared with him in confidence. I could see my sister getting flustered, and I finally snapped. I told him he had crossed a line and needed to apologize. He laughed and said, "It's not a big deal. You're all way too sensitive." I was so angry I couldn't even respond, and my sister just quietly walked away. After they left, my sister called me upset, saying I had embarrassed her by confronting him. I explained why I did it, and she said she didn't see it that way because she liked him and thought he was just joking around. My parents were neutral because they weren't there, but a few friends who were there told me privately they thought I was in the right and that Jake's behavior was genuinely out of line. Fast forward to now. My sister is asking if Jake can come up for a weekend this year. I said no. She is furious and keeps saying I'm being unreasonable, controlling, and ruining family traditions. She keeps bringing up that it's just a weekend and that I'm punishing her. I told her my cabin is my space too, and I don't want someone who's disrespectful or makes people feel unsafe there. She said that if I don't let him come, she might not go at all, which is frustrating because I really want to see her and keep the tradition alive. Our friends have taken sides, and honestly, it's divided our usual weekend group. Some friends think I'm being too harsh, while others agree that Jake was out of line and that it's reasonable for me to protect the cabin environment. My parents have tried to mediate, but haven't really said anything concrete. I feel torn because I love my sister and don't want to fight with her, but at the same time, I don't feel like I should allow someone who is so disrespectful to be in a space that's supposed to be relaxing and safe for everyone. I'm also worried that if I let him come, things will escalate again, and no one will have a good time. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at our family cabin after last summer. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after a breakup, even though he claims he has nowhere else to go. This is a long one, so bear with me. I, 28F, have always considered myself pretty generous, but I think my boundaries were tested recently in a way I didn't anticipate. My sister, Laura, 30F, has been dating Mark, 32M, for about 4 years. They've had a lot of ups and downs, but mostly I try to stay out of it because, well, boundaries. I've only ever met Mark a handful of times at family events, and while he always seemed polite, I never got close to him, and honestly, I didn't really like him much. That's more about my instincts than anything concrete. About 3 months ago, things started to go south between Laura and Mark. I didn't know all the details because Laura is very private, but I knew it was serious because she was crying almost every day for a week. Then, out of the blue, she called me and said they were officially breaking up. I was sad for her, of course, but I didn't expect the drama that would follow. The next day, Mark called me. I was shocked because we barely know each other, but he started crying and explaining that he had nowhere to go. Apparently, he had been living with Laura rent-free for the past 2 years because he couldn't afford his own place and had been actively trying to get a better job, but nothing had worked out yet. He was desperate and asked if he could stay with me for a few weeks while he got back on his feet. I have to note here that my apartment is small, just a 2-bedroom that I share with my cat, and I have a pretty busy life. I work from home, I travel occasionally for work, and I'm generally very independent. The idea of taking in my sister's ex-boyfriend, someone I barely know, was immediately stressful. I told him gently that I didn't think that would be a good idea. He got upset and started saying things like, "Come on, I can't just sleep on the street," and "I thought you were family. Don't you care?" I felt guilty, but I held my ground. I said, "I'm really sorry, Mark. I want to help, but my apartment just isn't set up for that. Maybe you can look into a short-term rental or a friend who has a spare room." That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. He called me every day for a week, sometimes multiple times a day, asking if I had reconsidered. He even showed up on my door once, which I thought was really inappropriate. I told him again, firmly, that I couldn't let him stay. Then, things escalated further. Apparently, Mark started texting Laura, saying I was heartless and abandoning him when he needed family. Laura, who is usually very rational, called me crying and said she thought I was being cruel. She said, "He's literally on the street. How can you just turn your back on him?" I tried to explain that my apartment couldn't accommodate him, that I wasn't unsympathetic, and that I had suggested other solutions, but she was inconsolable. She even hinted that if I refused, it would damage our family relationship. Then my parents got involved. They called me, asking why I wasn't letting Mark stay over. My dad said I was being selfish and that I should help a man in need, while my mom was more emotional, saying she didn't want to see anyone homeless, especially not family adjacent. At this point, I started to feel like the entire family was ganging up on me, which made me more determined not to let him stay, because it felt like pressure rather than genuine concern. I have offered to help in other ways. I gave Mark some contacts for affordable short-term rentals, helped him update his resume, and even offered to give him a small loan to help him get a place. But apparently, nothing is enough. He keeps insisting that I am choosing comfort over family, and my sister continues to text me every day about how I'm breaking her heart. A few friends have told me I might be the AH because I could technically take him in for a short period, even if it's inconvenient. Others say I'm completely reasonable, especially because he's an adult, and I am under no obligation to let someone stay who is not my partner or immediate family, especially someone I barely know. Honestly, I feel guilty sometimes, but mostly I feel like my boundaries are being completely ignored. I don't even want him living in my apartment, and I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't want to start letting people stay over just because they're persistent, especially someone I barely know. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's ex-boyfriend stay in my apartment after their breakup, even though he claims he has nowhere else to go. I should add that Mark has started telling mutual friends that I am terrible to someone in need, and now a few friends are calling me for my side of the story, which is only making me more stressed. My sister hasn't spoken to me in 3 days, and my parents are still giving me the silent treatment. I feel like I'm being punished for sticking to my own boundaries. I just want to know, am I being unreasonable here? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.